Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 48 of Duke's Download. Hard to believe we've done so many already, or so far, I should say. But I am so beyond honored that we have Isaac Mizrahi, the iconic fashion designer, media personality, cabaret singer, an incredible raconteur joining us today. I actually see he's on already, so we will get right to it. Let's see. I'm going to send him a request right now. Thank you all for joining. I'm really excited. Hello there.
Oh, look who it is. Hi. Wait a
It's
second
such
now.
an
Let's see if
honor,
I can do that.
seriously.
Oh, it's an honor for me. I think you're so smart and
Aw,
cute, not to say very cute.
you're too kind. Thank you.
How are you
Um,
today?
I'm very well. I'm here in LA. How are things in New York? Or
Well,
I'm at
yeah,
here. Are you in New York?
things are really right. That's right. Things are okay. It's a very, very strange time, darling. Very strange time for the world. And right, I mean, who
Yeah.
can think? Who can think about anything but all the shit that's going on? Except for having fun. Like you can only think of like how horrible the world is, and then you have
Right.
to have fun, right? You
Well,
got to have some fun.
I saw your video the other day about escapism and
Escapism,
and how
exactly.
as you just said, it's okay. We need to escape from
Yes, we
all the
do.
craziness. you know.
We
And on that
do.
note, congratulations on Cafe Carlisle and your
Oh,
run,
thank you.
which, I haven't been in New York in 3 years since pre-COVID, but as soon as I can, next time you're performing, I'm gonna be there
You
because,
should. You should come. It's a
and
lot of
even if it's not New
fun.
York, one of your other tour dates, I want to be there. So,
Okay. I will make
but
sure if I'm in the Los Angeles area or even the California area.
well, thank you. How did it go? How was your tour and your run?
It was just unbelievable. We'd done a few shows between the whole COVID raindrops, but this was the first time we had 10 shows in a row, and it was so special. And we reopened the club, so it was really emotional for a lot of people. Really kind of like loaded. It was like loaded. Oh wait, by the way, I think you can see the wee pad. Oh yeah, there it is. There's a wee pad in my shot. See it? Sorry, I didn't, because you know what? I did this thing for
Believe me.
TV, and
No, believe me. I
hooray for
understand.
wee
Believe me.
pads. Ah!
I have my roommate has a dog here, so
All right.
and you may be aware that my mom, my dad, and we were a big dog family, so
Yes, I do
totally
know
understand.
this.
I remember
I do.
my mom used to go to the store. This is a very random anecdote, but my mom and I used to go to the grocery store in France when I was a kid to go buy pads for the dogs, and of
Right.
course she would say, "Do the people here think that these are for me?" So
Ah! Exactly, exactly.
so
Well, I spoke to a friend of mine this morning who just got a hybrid, one of those like extremely bred dogs, and he said, "Oh, and my husband got, my husband got her a playpen." And I said to him, "Well, darling, my dog named Kitty is laughing right now because really a playpen, because Kitty, my dog, is from Puerto Rico. She's like one of those Sato dogs." So
oh,
like, and she was like, yeah, if Doris had to exist for like, 3 seconds in Puerto Rico, she'd be like, barbecue. She'd be barbecue. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Oh, well, not so funny, but funny, right?
no,
Dark humor, darling, dark humor.
no, but anyway, I no, seriously, I'm such a fan,
Thank you.
and no, I think it's amazing. Like, when, instead of curiosity, how did the idea come to you to do or how did the opportunity with the Carlisle, but then more broadly, when did you decide to start doing a live show?
Well, the thing is, James, before I was a fashion designer, I was, like I went to performing arts high school. I was in the acting department. I was an actor. And then I kind of chickened out because I thought, everybody in my class was so pretty and I was not. and I thought I'll never get cast. I was also like heavy, which is not to shame anybody, but I just didn't think I was a castable type. So I just chickened out, and I decided it would be easier for me to like get a job in the fashion business in New York City, because they were like, it's in New York in those days. Those design rooms were like you could get a job in a second, because we knew a lot of people. My father was in the business, and so it seemed like an easier kind of route. So I did that. I kind of chickened out about show business, and and so now here I am all these years later. I used to, like, when I was 8, I started doing female impersonations, and I have to tell you,
Who are some of your impersonations?
well, I did Judy, of course, Judy Garland. I did Streisand. I did Shirley Bassey. I did Eartha
Wow.
Kitt. I did,
Oh
I
my
did
God! What I would
everybody,
do
darling.
is these. I wish these
Ah,
were on video. That would
oh,
be.
could you? Thank God they're not. Thank God that torture is behind me. But it was amazing, and I did like female impersonations. I had this giant puppet theater that I made in the garage of my house. So it was like this whole theater experience when you came, and it wasn't. Let me tell
Wow.
you something, darling. In 1978 or whatever this was, when I was 8 or something, right? Or 15 or whatever, it was not a source of pride for the Mizrahi family, for the youngest boy to be doing, Shirley Bassey, right? Not a source of pride, darling.
Well, it's very weird because I was in many ways almost exactly like you. I mean, I don't know. I didn't do female impersonations. I wasn't a very good singer, but I would dress up in drag. Like in fact, I posted photos of myself. My aunt actually would help me. My dad's sister would actually help me get dressed up. And I recently
Wow.
talked to one of my dad's cousins, a woman who used to help me out, put my outfits on as well. And I was like, "Did you know I was gay back then?" And I was like 8, and she was
Well,
like, "Of
wait a minute
course I
now.
did."
Because, darling, I never had any drag tendencies. I just did the voice and the
Right.
mannerisms and the acting. I never
Oh,
thought about putting
interesting.
myself in drag, because here's the thing: I was trained as a kid to think of myself as a fat, ugly mess. You know what I mean? And so, like, I don't. I honestly, I would never think to try to make myself more beautiful. Like, it's not my thing to make myself more beautiful. I try to diet because, otherwise I'd be, very, very big, which isn't a problem, except, you know, when you're a kid, when it's drummed into your head, right, it just becomes
Mhm.
this kind of issue for you, a
Right.
lifelong issue. So I never tried the drag thing. And then, like right now, you can't walk out of your house without tripping over, 3 gender non-conforming individuals, which is so exciting to me. I have to tell you, that is like, to think that your aunt, darling, helped you with drag. Like, this is a difference. You're what, like, so young. You're
I'm
tiny,
turning
tiny,
30 next month. Yeah.
tiny little baby. You're a tiny little baby, darling. But here's the thing, for my generation, it just wasn't. It's not easy for any generation. It's not easy for your generation. It's not easy for the younger people. But it seems like the younger people are being heard more.
Yeah. Oh, there's a huge difference even between my
Yeah.
generation and when I came out at 14, but for
Right.
me, I mean, now you have kids coming out
Well,
at 10.
darling, wait a minute though. Darling, your mother would be so disappointed if you weren't gay, okay? I know your mother, and she would be like, what did I do? What have I done wrong with this boy to make
She
him?
and she and I did an interview with the Advocate recently where she was like, I literally have if I didn't have a gay son, I'd have nightmares about him bringing home a Kardashian. So,
Well, that,
she's
for
like,
instance,
I'm
exactly.
very happy that
Oh, that's so funny.
yeah, things worked out the way they did. But I was going to come to this later, but since you brought it up, my weight is something I've struggled with my whole life, and I really meant a lot to me, and I related to you a lot on that front as well, because obviously as a gay man, it's something that's in particular, I don't know what you would want to say, particular relevance in the gay community. And, I've dealt with a lot of anxiety about it in the past, and it's something I still struggle with all the time. But I think, I mean, like, I find myself even the other day making self-deprecating comments in conversation, like, I love to eat, as you can see, or those sorts of things, which, and, I mean, it's just, my question for you is, you've been very honest about it. And my question would be, like how have you dealt with it throughout your life, and not just the physical aspect of it, but the mental aspect of it
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I will say this. I'm going to preface whatever I say with the following, which is that, for me, it is a different issue than it is for you and than it is for the next generation.
Right.
For me, it's almost simpler, like you're fat or you're thin. And you're not okay if you're fat, and if you're thin, you're okay. You know what I mean? Which is a fucked up, shitty thing to drill into somebody's head. But if you knew my mother, right? Like, she drilled it into my head from the day I was born. She still says to me, I swear to God, the woman is 94 years old, and she remembers four things. She keeps saying the four things, same things over and over and over. And one of them is, you know what? Why do you bother? You were born fat. You know what I mean? Like, this is what she says to me, So I honestly, she's, oh, you look so thin, but I don't know why you bother. You were born fat, And so, so like the thing is, I swear to God, there's a freedom to, there was, and even being gay in those days, there was a freedom
Isaac,
to.
can you give me 1 second? I'm so
Sure,
sorry. The
sure.
gardener's
Okay.
here. I just have to tell him to
Oh
wait for a
my
second.
God!
I don't
Well,
want him when
go
I'm using the
on,
blow
go
machine,
on.
whatever that
Oh,
is.
we hear you. We hear you. Oh my gosh! I'm going to take a little yerba mate, homemade yerba mate break. Everybody, that's homemade yerba mate. Hi.
Thanks for entertaining the audience for a second. I was just like, he was about to use that big machine. I'm like,
Oh
please do
no.
not do that right now. The leaf
No,
blowers.
no, blowers are so bad for the environment. You know that, right? They're
Well,
terrible
right,
for the environment.
right. I should give him some environmental statistics as well. Anyway, my apologies.
So
Go ahead.
it was, like I was going to say, when if you were gay when I came out, I would say it was like 1981 or 1982, and it was almost easier because it was so outside of the whole. It was so persona non grata. There were nobody, and so like if you went to a gay club, there was such a solidarity. I cannot tell you what it was like walking into a gay club, or especially like in the late 80s and the early 90s when I started going to like gay dances at Columbia, or like gay parties at like Saatchi and Saatchi, you know what I mean? Like, like fabulous places that would have these gay parties. And I think like, wow, this is above board. And all these men and all these women are gay. And now you have like these incredible different aspects of homosexuality and sexuality and gender identification and all of that. And it tends to kind of like rend us apart a little bit, as opposed to bringing us together, which it used to do. It used to bring us together very, very much. And now it tends to rend us apart, understandably, because, my generation has a very difficult idea understanding, if someone accepts you, no matter what you are, which we do, but then of course no one wants to be merely accepted, so it's a very, very, very deep, 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 and it goes for the body shaming thing too, like, and by the way, like, even when I was at my biggest, and even when I, did like my sloppiest kind of set at a club, right, at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I never made fat jokes. If I did, it was always about like myself or about eating or something. It was never about body shaming. I think
Right.
that's really, that's never been, it's never been funny, I mean, unless you're Don Rickles or something like that. Don Rickles could get away with a fat joke, or like, or Joan Rivers occasionally could get away with a fat joke. Joan, I don't know what it was about Joan. She could do anything she fucking wanted, right? She was just God. Joan was
Absolutely.
God, right?
I had the honor of meeting her twice, and I'm still friendly. In fact, I've interviewed Melissa, but the two of them were just, and Joan is
Hilarious.
incredible. I mean, it's true. I often wonder, like, side note, but like, what would be happening to her now? I mean, can you imagine? I mean, she'd probably
I
get away.
can't.
She'd probably still be getting away with it, but it would be,
Yeah, all except the whole Trumpism, the whole Trumpness of the lady, because she was on that show, and I think she felt sort of beholden to him for helping her when she had a rough. But wait a minute, I want to get from you what it's like to be gay right now, because like it used to be. First of all, I have this joke about like I used to, when I was in the 90s, like going out at night, I wish they had like T-shirts with the word top on it, so that I wouldn't waste the night talking about Liza with someone till 3 in the morning. You would just know if somebody was, accessible in that way. And now I just wonder, like, how y'all, because you're gay, right? You're
Yeah,
100% gay, right? So you are
absolutely.
looking for another guy to have sex with and have love with and have all that with, right?
Absolutely.
But what about like, those other kind of like people who aren't as cut and dry as we
Right.
are, right? Like I think that has to be very interesting, right? Seeking out someone else who loves you, right? And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like this idea that you just meet someone who you love. But like, what about just sleeping with somebody? Does that ever happen? Does that happen?
You know, it's like I said earlier, it's so weird because I've noticed in the last year or two how even my generation, the millennials, are so different than even the 20-year olds or 20,
Right.
even people that I noticed that even people that are only 6, 7 years younger than me are in a completely different world. And I mean, in good ways and in bad ways. I mean, just in the sense that, like, for instance, for me, I was just reading an article the other day about how my generation is the first generation to have to figure out what it's like to become like an older as a gay man in a world where there's really, unless of course you're in certain places in the country, but there is no sort of we're totally assimilated now, and we're the first generation where we have to consider, like, oh, do I maybe want to get married in the next few years, or have it's sort of. So I think each generation has its own set of. So I'm sort of figuring out now that I'm turning 30, like what it means to be sort of part of my generation, if that makes sense, and what comes along with
Mm-hmm.
that as a
Right.
gay man. But
Well,
for me,
actually, you know what?
it's pretty straightforward.
There was a question on your feed, and the
Uh-huh.
question was, why does it matter? And I guess that's a good question, but here's the answer to that. To everyone who wonders about the question, right? It matters because I think understanding is everything. Humans would like to understand each other. So if I can't even ask questions,
Right.
then that's what matters, that I can't ask questions. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So it's like, because it matters to me because I am full of love, and I would like to understand this generation whom I love,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why it matters.
I know it is really funny that, and it does matter, absolutely. And it's funny, another random comment, but I was talking to like a 23-year-old recently who asked me the bar or club, and he goes, "Are you a Barb stan?" And I was like, I laughed out. I laughed out loud because I was like, "What?" Like, I literally have no idea what that means.
What is it? I
And
want to know what that
and
is.
he was like, "Well, Barb means you're a Nicki Minaj fan, apparently," which I don't know why you wouldn't just say I'm a Nicki Minaj. And then Stan, which I'm like, people were shocked really that I didn't know that part, because Stan apparently means you're like a fan of something or someone.
I see.
But anyway, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just
Funny
liked
comments.
Jerome
But
Cleary. Sorry, Jerome. Good question. I mean it. We love you, Jerome.
but no, it's just one of those funny things where I'm like, oh my god, each generation, the millennials versus Gen Z and whatever, each one has their own different references and things they have to deal with. So it's for me, it's been, I'm almost 30. It's kind of, I think I'm close to. I've become a lot more self-aware in the last few years and started figuring out how to navigate all the stuff that you have to deal with dating and relationships and all that. But
Right.
it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
That is my least favorite word in the English language. God, I hate the word journey. I hate it. I hate journey. I hate foodie. I hate the word foodie. I hate fur babies. I
For
hate people
babies.
call their dogs fur babies. Sorry, that's just me. Call your dogs whatever you want.
No,
That's my
I agree
favorite.
with you. Fur babies is annoying.
Ah!
It's
Like,
really
picturing like a little ET or something, like a baby with like fur on it.
exactly. No, but okay. So more about you.
All right.
I'm curious. I read an interview you did with Town and Country where you said, which I thought was interesting, that maybe they didn't quote this part of it. They just referenced it. Maybe you didn't phrase it this way. I don't know, but you said that you didn't see your main legacy, or you didn't want your main legacy eventually to be in fashion, that you wanted it to be in show business. I thought that was interesting because obviously you're one of the biggest fashion designers on the planet. So, like, I mean, I'm interested in, like, is that how you feel? Really, that's the thing that you really want to focus on now, you would say?
Yes, that's what I've wanted to focus on my entire life.
Wow.
And I feel like I kind of, I kind of fucked up a little bit going away from it after high school. While all my friends went on to Juilliard, I went on to Parsons. You know what I mean? And it was
Mm-hmm.
really weird. Like, I don't know why I did that. I'll tell you what, though, James, darling. Like, a lot of my friends who were in show business from the onset, who went right into it, are a little tired of it. At this point, they're like, really, do I have to do this? And do I have to? Do I really? Whereas I'm discovering this whole thing, and it's kind of like unfolding. And by the way, I've been doing it for the last 20 years. It's not like I
Right.
just started doing it.
Right.
I started before that. I used to do club dates forever. I work with this particular musical director since the 20th century, darling. So that's like for 25 years, I know Ben Walter. And we've been working together exclusively in that way for like over 25 years. So the thing is, like, for me, it's just getting started. And I feel really kind of incredibly lucky for that,
Mhm.
very, very lucky for that.
No, it's interesting because my mom has talked about the fact that when she was about 40, she realized, for a lot of reasons, but she realized that music up until the last 20, 30 years of her life, her life had been all about music, and she still loves music, and but I think she realized at some point that is not everything. That's not everything that I am, and
Right.
it's okay to actually go and pursue new things. And I think it's so great that you were established by one thing, but now you found, or again, you've been doing it for a while, but now you're focused on this other passion, and so it's okay to sort of do a lot of things. I mean, those are not the only two things that you do, obviously. I mean, you're like
Yeah.
one of the most multifaceted people I think I've ever seen. But actually, yeah, one question I want to ask you, you kind of already referenced this, but who would you say as a performer some of your biggest influences were? Not just that you were a fan of, but that as a performer you're
Okay.
particularly fond of.
This is going to sound so incredibly gay to you, but it is the gayest answer that you could think of. But I would say that Liza, Liza was a friend of mine. I made clothes for her, and I was backstage a lot, and I watched her a lot, And I mean, I loved her since I'm a kid, and I used to do these Liza impersonations, like this crazy 8-year-old or 10-year-old something. And then when I met her, it was like, what is happening in my life here? And then we became like friends. And it was really like, she of all people, she was a really good friend. Like, she'd call and we'd go out and we went to see shows together. We went to dinner together. I mean, it was a real thing. And but you watch that woman come out, you watch that woman make an entrance on a stage as a performer, just singing a tune. You have never seen someone take an audience, whether it's like 100 people or 10,000 people. I mean, you have never seen the intense, like, sort of courage and the conviction and the party aspect. It was just
Mhm.
something to behold and something to learn about how to. So I would say she really influenced me.
Mhm.
And she really taught me a great deal about that whole thing. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Both the singing and the
Yeah,
entertaining
the
aspect of
singing for
it.
sure, but also the entertainment of it, the entering. And I realized that very early on, like, when you enter, if you're not there in this way, you will get eaten alive.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, and and speaking of getting eaten alive, we're avoiding that. Your memoir was amazing, and
Thank you.
I think I touched on the fact that you address a lot of things very honestly in the book, including your weight, but you also talked a lot about just in general, like so much of the adversity that you've been through, and but you said, and I read this, that you said in a recent interview that you're naturally an optimistic person, and that despite all the adversity, that's something that has sort of helped see you through. Like, how have you held on to that? Because you've been through a lot of stuff,
Well,
as
yeah, James, I'll tell you this. The great thing about my life is that I learned optimism. Life taught me optimism. You know, because when I started, I wasn't in the greatest position. Like, I really wasn't in the right place. I was at this, you know, yeshiva, which was incredibly religious, and it was horrible, and they just didn't understand me. In my family, in this community, I just wasn't. There's just no possible. Um, and so, like, I learned optimism because then I went to performing arts high school. I went from this crazy like yeshiva thing, and suddenly at 13, I was at this insane, fabulous place. And over that first year as a freshman at performing arts high school, I learned that, oh, wait a minute, life is going to be better. Life is better already. It gets better and better and better. So I am naturally, I am a pessimist, but I learned optimism. And I have to tell you right now, though, I'm not sure what the hell I am. I'm not sure I'm an optimist or a pessimist, darling, because like between COVID and this whole crazy, like sort of Russian, you know, invasion, I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know what to tell young people about the world. It's like, it's just an incredibly embarrassing place to live in right now. You know, it's an embarrassing place to live in. Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I don't
No.
know if I feel optimistic or I don't know if I can actually, because all through COVID, I was like, oh no, we're going to get through this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then right at the moment where we started to see a little something that was the glimmer, this whole fucking Putin thing happened, and it was just so fucked up, and so it just made my heart, you know, turn down.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. I was talking to some friends about the fact that, like, basically, as soon as COVID's, you know, ending, we go right into another, you know, crisis. And, you know,
Right.
it's true. But I think, you know, you're a testament to the fact that, you know, just whatever life may throw your way, you know, you can persevere, you know, and maintain, be funny and be, you know, be a ray of light. So, so kudos to
Yeah.
you for that. You know?
Thank you. I feel like, you know, everybody is just feeling this right now. Every single person I know. If you're not feeling it, you're not paying attention, as they say.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
Right. But, you know, in addition to your show and your tour and your brand, I thought it was so interesting. You said that you actually have. I read that you said you had a production company,
Yeah.
and that you're actually developing some film and TV projects, and that you're actually looking to, or I mean, you've already acted, but you know, you're looking to do more acting.
I
Um,
would do it. Yeah.
what are some of the things that you're working on right now?
I'm working on a young adult series. I'm working on a novel. I'm working on selling
Wow.
a show with me in it. A few
Wow.
different projects. Yeah, I'm
That would
about
be
to
a
get a bunch
show in
of
which
tour
you would
dates.
a scripted show,
No, no, just a sort of a
not a script.
show with me doing appearances. It would like a sort of not exactly a reality show, sort of like a nighttime kind of reality show.
Well, I
It's
wish
an
you would.
idea.
I mean, I think you should be back on TV as you know, doing a talk show, because I watched. I mean, I've seen a lot of
Well,
the interviews you've done in the past, but I just rewatched the Go Go's interview that you did with my
oh
mom
my God.
and
Well,
the
wait a minute.
band.
Can I just tell you something about your mom? Have you been following her on Instagram? Because wait a
I
minute.
have.
Because how the fuck does she look so gorgeous, right? Like she looks better now. I'm not kidding. Like she's always been gorgeous, but she looks better now. So wait a minute. So this is very good news for you, darling. Not that you're not already gorgeous, because you are gorgeous, but like imagine how gorgeous you're going to look in, you know, a few years, because she looks, I don't know how she does that. Do
She,
you think she's had bunches of shit done to herself? Like what is she, because it looks all, it doesn't, she doesn't look
she,
surgically, she looks amazing. Sorry.
she's. I mean, I will say, you know, that, and that's one thing that, you know, she and I have talked about this. You know, we both share that weight issue, or you know, throughout our lives, and you know, she's
Yes.
naturally, but she works her ass off. I will give her credit. She has a work ethic and self discipline that, you
But
know, but
there was this clip of her online recently where she was in these little jeans that were sort of like barely fit her. They were like sort of easy jeans. And she was singing with the band. She had her hair just kind of, and I was like, who is this? This is like Dorian Gray. She literally looks better than she did when I met her, and better than she did like, you know, 20 years before that. So stay with
well,
it, James.
you know, I think, no, I mean, that's one thing, you know, I mean, I really respect her for it, because she, you know, and I wish, I'm working on it, you know, that having that kind of work ethic, because she gets up every morning at 4 a.m. and does yoga, and she
Right.
not just for her physical, but like she's really focused on like she does a lot of yoga for her mental well-being. And I mean you do yoga too, right? I think I
Yes, I
read that.
do. I do
Yeah.
yoga. Yes. Yoga's a great thing. Actually, my mother, who is 95, can barely walk. Okay. Like she can't hear, she can't speak, she can't. I mean, she's really not doing so well, my poor mother. But she told me, and for years she's been like, walking in a walker and crippled. She's just not doing very well. And she has a friend named Eva who's like 5 years older than her. She's literally nearly 100, and she is like spry. And my mother told me it's because she did yoga her whole life. No
Wow.
kidding. Yeah, she was a yoga girl. She found yoga like at World War II somehow. And yeah.
One of the first. Well, not one of the first. One in
Well, yeah,
America
exactly.
anyway. Yeah.
Exactly, totally.
But no,
Oh, Nick Norcia joined. He's a hunk.
it's
Nick
actually
Norcia.
funny. I met him through. We have a couple mutual friends. Hi, Nick. But it's just so funny.
Hi.
One of our mutual friends, which I think we have. I think we have probably a few.
Oh, look,
But
his avatar is shirtless now. He's gone full on sex.
full on
sex.
hunk.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, anyway, Isaac, I can't tell you what a fan and admirer of yours I am, and I'm so surreal that you would do this. So thank you.
I mean that.
And I hope, I mean, like I should know this, but like in the past, I assume in the past you've done tour dates on the West Coast as well in LA.
Yes.
So
yes.
next time you do, I'll be there for sure.
Okay, well, I'm going to be doing a bunch of dates that will be announced. I don't know when, like soon. So.
And do you know that my mom has a show? I think they rescheduled for September that she's doing some shows at the Carlisle.
Really?
She is, yeah.
That's incredible. I can't wait. I have to book a table now because those tables go like that. Man.
Well, I think you will. We'll take care of you. But
let's go together. No kidding. I would love
that. That would be
so glamorous, James. It'd be so fucking glamorous. And we'll go with Sandra because I know Sandra loves.
I love Sandra so much.
So let's go with Sandra. That would be so.
I think
fun.
that literally I think would probably be the best night of my life. Seriously.
Me too.
So we'll
honestly.
do it.
All right.
Thanks so much. Lots of love.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.